After working on body position and kick using a variety of drills, like front sculling and various kicking drills, it's now time to work on the arms. If you've been doing the workouts, you should be ready. We will be testing your ability at the next in-person session to perform the various homework we've been giving you. We will also take a look at your dry land, mainly just the swim tubing drills. We want to see that a good catch and good pull can be performed. Recall that in doing these exercises, you can follow the following steps. Step 1 is to have your arm extended on the same side as the front leg is facing forward, so there's a slight rotation. To start the pull, internally rotate the shoulder, keeping the elbow and shoulder high. Turn the pointy part of the elbow out, but make sure the hand is flat. Once you're in this position, you're ready to start the catch. For the catch, you're going to hinge at the elbow so that the forearm and hand become perpendicular to the floor, and the upper arm is still pretty close to horizontal to the floor or parallel to the floor. Then, to do the rest of the stroke, keep the forearm and hand facing behind you, pinch the lats and the underarm muscle, and then push back behind you. Recover just by releasing the arm back to starting position. It's important to make sure that you can do this motion correctly before adding the swim tubing. Over the next few weeks, we will work mostly on feel for the water and the stroke cycle while continuing to include the same dryland routine and a few kick and body position drills. We will continue to do lots of sculling to try to develop the sensory receptors on your hands and forearms needed to feel and grab the water. A little review on sculling. So the basic principle behind sculling is the principle that every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. The forearms and hands must face opposite the direction that you want to go. Note that the arms are slightly angled down from the surface of the water. The head position should be similar to that of your swimming. Note that the arms are straight like windshield wipers. They don't scoop in. Forearms and hands are strong. Play around with the foot position. Play around with dropping your legs and feeling how much resistance there is. If you try to keep your heels near the surface, feel how much faster you move. To make the drill easier, you can wear a snorkel, and you can also use a pull buoy if you are having trouble with the arms. But once you use toys, you are removing the ability to practice your body position and how to maintain good body position when you breathe. So you should try to do some of the sculling without any assistance. We will also introduce some back sculling. Feet first sculling on your back has a bit more of a scoop. The key when sculling is that the forearms and hands always point away from the direction that you want to go. So when you're on your back, you still keep the palms and forearms facing backwards and down to give you forward propulsion and help you keep you floating in the water. You can also use a pull buoy to make this drill easier. Head first sculling on your back means that you have to now point your forearms and hands with the fingers pointed up. This drill also really focuses on making sure that you're engaging your core. Again, you can make this drill easier with a pull buoy between your legs. All the sculling drills are really amazing to enhance your feel for the water and to practice body position. Yes, they are hard, but they will really help. So now let's change gears a little bit and talk about the stroke cycle. We will go through the stroke cycle several times in the next few minutes of this presentation. So first, always keep in mind that there is a defined start to the stroke, and that happens at the very front of you. Hand entry starts the stroke cycle. The hand enters slightly in front of your head, about shoulder width. You can almost picture yourself swimming between narrow train tracks, and your hands follow these train tracks. You enter on an angle to the water with your fingers slightly spread, not squeezed, not far apart, and then the wrist and forearm enter, and then the shoulder. A good hand entry sets you up for a good catch. The degree of elbow bend during the catch varies between swimmers. Some have a very well-defined catch and a really bent elbow, and others do not. However, in both instances, the shoulder internally rotates and the elbow and shoulder stay high throughout this phase of the stroke. Next is the propulsive phase of the stroke. You have to keep the arm, forearm, and hand facing behind you, the pointy part of the elbow out, and finish the stroke by your hip. Note that you accelerate through the stroke. So it starts on hand entry with a pause, and then you slowly go through the high elbow catch. Well, not super slow, but you slowly speed up through the early vertical catch, high elbow catch, and then the catches, and then once you finish the catch, the pull is a lot faster. So next we will watch a video of a swimmer and then go back and break down the different components of the stroke cycle with some images once again. Okay, so here we are going to take a look at a real live animated swimmer. Okay, so and we're going to talk about the stroke cycle with a bit of a visual. So before we get into that, I just want you to take a look at her body position. All right, so her head, the top of her head is above the water. All right, you can see her shoulders are coming out of the water, her upper back, her hips, and her heels. Okay, so this is ideally what sort of body position that you want to have when you're in the water. And we'll take a look at this from above. Okay, and then sort of what it looks like head on. So you can see there's no side-to-side movement of her body. She keeps one goggle eye in the water when she breathes. She's just rotating along like there's a pole sticking out from her head all the way down to her feet. All right, so now let's just take a look at the stroke cycle as we were talking about. So the stroke cycle starts when your hand enters the water. So here you can see she's entering the water. She's entering fingertips first, okay, then wrist, then elbow, and then shoulder. let's just take a look at her fingertips. They're slightly spread apart, okay? They're not squeezed together tight. They're not super, super wide either. All right, so this entry position, her forearm is on a bit of an angle to the surface of the water, sets you up for a nice high elbow catch. There's a little bit of a pause, and then you can see she moves into this high elbow catch or early vertical forearm. All right, how much of a bend you have in your elbow sort of depends on somewhat of your flexibility. You'll also see people with a bit of a straighter arm here, but the key is that the elbow's out to the side and the forearm and hands are facing behind you. What'll differ is kind of the angle of the upper arm here. But this is a solid catch position that will help you push the water towards your feet. Okay, then we go into the pull phase. Okay, so here again, the eye of the elbow is out to the side. The hand is facing behind her. She's about to start the kick. All right, so this is kind of during the pushback or the pull propulsive phase. She's also kicking down with her feet for propulsion. Okay, so that's the pull phase right there. And then you can see here, she finishes her stroke. Her palm is still facing behind her and she's finishing the stroke by her hips. And she sort of finished the kick part of her stroke. And then the recovery phase, her elbow is is the highest point. Okay, hands below elbow, elbow above shoulder. She's not leading the stroke with her hand. She's leading like her stroke with her elbow, like her elbow is held up like a puppet on a string. And then you enter the water. So let's take a brief moment to take a look at her breathing. All right, so there she's rolling to the side. She's starting her breath when the hand is exiting the water by her hip. She's breathing, and then the head enters and rotates as the hand enters. Okay, so it's all a very coordinated motion. The other thing that I'm going to point out is just sort of when she starts her stroke. So she's starting to pull her arm back while her hand is kind of recovering or by her goggles. Okay, so she is in her catch, starting her catch when this hand is almost by her goggles or by her head, or at least her elbow is. Okay, so she's in that catch position, and then she starts to pull back as the other arm comes around. There's various timings here. Okay, this is more of like a swinger or open water style stroke. And then if you take a look at this guy who's got more of an overlapping stroke, he actually starts his pull a little bit later. Okay, so his hand is a little bit more forward. And you'll vary just kind of depending on, where exactly you start your pull, but we'll do a lot of drills where the hands overlap at the front. That's not really how you swim. It's just a useful drill. So just keep that in mind. Keep in mind the timing. Keep in mind that when the opposite arm is passing the head or the goggles, or the hand is in the recovery mode, that's kind of when you start your stroke on the opposite side. Okay, so as I said, we are going to go through this once again with these pictures, with them paused. All right, so remember, hand entry starts the stroke cycle. The hand enters slightly in front of your head, about shoulder width. You enter on an angle to the water with your fingers slightly spread, not squeezed together or far apart. And then the wrist and forearm will enter, and then the shoulder. Okay, a good hand entry sets you up for a good catch. And then you can see here the position of the high elbow catch. So the shoulder, the elbow are high, and then the forearm and hand are facing back behind you. Okay, so here we see the catch once again. So you see the direction that she's pushing the water. You can see how high the elbow is, and then how it goes into the pull. So the key point here is that the pointy part of the elbow is out. Okay, forearm and palm are facing back. That is getting you the finish of the pull and getting you the propulsion. Okay, so this is the pull phase of the stroke. So from this kind of position, from when your arm is kind of directly under your body to the push back. All right, so notice that the palm and forearm face back for as long as possible. And this is also when you start your kick. This just shows the transition from finishing the stroke by your hip. And then it's almost like there's a string attached to your elbow, like your elbow is just like that puppet. And the string pulls up on the elbow and moves the arm from the elbow to the hand entry position. Okay, so you don't want to rotate your shoulder a lot from here. It's just a smooth one motion recovery. Okay, if you're trying to rotate and scoop your arm and your hand is moving all over the place, or you're leading the recovery with your hand, that's going to cause some shoulder problems, or it can cause some shoulder problems. So when you're doing your recovery, just make sure your elbow is being lifted like a puppet on a string. The rest of the clinic will include drills that will focus on the different phases of the swim stroke. So the next 3 weeks will focus mostly on your hand entry, the timing of the arms, and the slow to enter the water, pause at the start, and then accelerating through the catch and pull. And we'll also focus on timing the arms relative to one another. And we'll also try to get you as comfortable as possible breathing on both sides. This promotes symmetry. I don't think you need to bilateral breathe in a race or in a hard training set, but when you're learning good technique, breathing to both sides is important.
Superman kick.
We introduced
another
Superman kick already.
It can be used
But
in the
to
absence
practice
of
breathing to both sides,
or to help
you can do
address
the
the
Superman
crossover
kick.
stroke.
And when you do
Since
need
it
to
teaches you
breathe,
to keep the
do a
hands
single
in front of the
stroke and breathe
shoulders,
to
which is
that
where they
side.
should be entering the water.
Focus on keeping your head
During
steady
the freestyle.
at the surface of the water, not letting
Superman
yourself
kick
sink,
is another
and
kick
keeping the back
variation
dry
that can
and
be
the
used
heels
in the
at the surface
absence
of
of
the
a
water.
kickboard. Or
The catch-up drill builds on the Superman kick drill. Here, you are continuously swimming, but you do one full stroke cycle with one arm and then do the same stroke cycle on the other arm. Really focus on hand entry and accelerating through the stroke from the catch to the pull. Don't worry too much about the high elbow catch and getting the elbow turned out, as we will work on that more in clinic 3. All I really want you to do for now is get the hand entry right, start your stroke at the front and accelerate through the catch and pull. Remember that this is not how you swim freestyle, but it is a useful drill to isolate one arm at a time and to prevent those of you who tend to drop the arm too soon at the front of the stroke. The next drill we will introduce is one arm freestyle. Here you can really focus on one arm at a time. One arm goes through the stroke cycle while the other stays out front. Make sure to breathe to the stroking side, probably every 2 strokes. So one stroke, no breathing, one stroke with a breath, regardless of whether you are a right-sided or left-sided breather. This will help you get comfortable breathing to your not so comfortable breathing side. You can also do single arm freestyle with one arm at your side, the non-stroking arm. This allows you to rotate a little bit better, which is more similar to an actual freestyle stroke. This last drill actually focuses on the timing of the stroke. When do you start the stroke cycle? You start your stroke when the opposite arm passes by your goggles or head. So here you are kicking on one side for about 6 kicks with one arm in a shark fin, with your thumb close to your armpit and your elbow high on that puppet string. When you are ready to roll, the lead arm pushes back and the arm that's up completes the stroke. This helps to counterbalance the catch-up and single arm drills to ensure you don't develop an over-gliding type of stroke. So you can make this easier by using fins. And I'm okay if you only use fins for this drill, as the focus really is on the timing. I know that's a lot, but make sure that you watch this video maybe once or twice before getting to the clinic. As you realized, and we realized at the last clinic, there isn't a lot of time for us to demonstrate the drills. So it's really, really helpful if you watch the videos before. And if you have any questions, please reach out. We are here to help you. If you need clarification, just let us know. Use the Facebook group for group support. All right, I will see you at the next one.